Hey, it's Joey Balladonna here from Anthrax, and this is SAGAS.
Well,
Look, this is a big one.
I didn't break out and join the podcast today.
It is now time for Devil's Advocate. Same time, same place, for something. What's going on, everybody? This is your boy Corbin, the Serpent Tongue Skipwith.
And this is Ran the Berserker Marabou, and this is
SAGAS.
Woo! Episode 25. Was that
Yeah,
correct,
25.
bro? Happy days.
What a week. What a week.
What a week.
We just need to accept that we're just moving up, you know. It's just like,
Yeah. It's a mad week all around. Celebrations to be had and more celebrations to be had, so happy days. We're still in shock here. I don't know if anybody's noticed. We're a little shell shocked about all of our good news this week, which we'll share as we go on throughout the podcast. But yeah. This week's episode, you picked the album, bro.
So as you can all see, this
Stone Sour.
we'll be covering the, I believe, third album by Stone Sour, Audio Secrecy, released in 2010. So I will tell how I discovered about this band, but before I do that, I would love to know, as someone who only listened to their first album, correct?
Yeah.
Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah. So someone who's listened to that one and going to this one, what was your thoughts?
It's funny because I was in school when this first album came out. What was about 2000 or 2002 or something, and I Slipknot were really just starting to make waves, and everybody was all about Slipknot, and then all of a sudden you got to see the front man of Slipknot, and I was like, wow, what is going on? This is crazy. So the first song they brought out was a bit more melodic, and it kind of just was a really good song. What was the name of the song? Bothered or something? I think it was. Yeah, Bothered. That was a great song, really, really good song. And it was all over MTV too. It was a big, big thing back in the day, and the rest of the album was fairly rocking, and I loved all the riffs and stuff. And, ever since, that's what I think about when I think about Stone Sour, is that time. I skipped over, I didn't hear the second album, but I heard it's relatively similar to the first, but a little bit of a kind of leaning in towards turning directions for this third album, Audio Secrecies. And when I heard this album, I thought it was gonna be totally different, but they actually kept a lot of the really cool elements. There's a few with a bit more kind of melodic, more mainstream, let's say, sort of sound and stuff on it. But overall, it was a nice surprise. And I've since, you said to me to listen to this one. I've listened back to the last one and the one next one and the next one. And I was sad to hear that they've kind of gone on a hiatus, because their last album sounded really good, proper good riffs and melodic kind of death metal sort of style and guitars. So yeah, I was surprised, man. I'm interested to listen back into them in more depth as the weeks come on. But yeah, good selection. Wasn't too surprised. Wasn't let down. It was a good listen.
Well, let me just start off by saying this. Their second album, Come Whatever May, is nothing like their first album.
Yeah, right.
It is a lot more melodic. It's a lot more like this album, actually, than that one. But anyway, I digress. So when I first heard this, it's the funniest story. So this came out when I was 16 years old, and I was still at school. And before that, I used to catch a bus to school and back, and the bus route was about, give or take, 20 minutes all up. Train, caught a train to 5 stops, and then walk 2 minutes to my school and back. And on my way back one day, there was this drunk old man. He was at the back of the train, and I was there too. And he was just sitting down all drunk, and he looked at me, and he must have seen that I had something metal on me, a shirt or a heavy metal shirt. And he said, "Oh, you're a metal fan?" And I said, "Yeah." And then he said, "Have you heard of Stone Sour?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Oh, that's Corey Taylor's side band." And then he just passed out, I think. I forgot what happened to him. But so I went home and I instantly Googled it to see if he was just bullshitting. And it was real. And I was like, oh shit. And then I heard the song Bother. And from there on, I was a fan. And I think their first 3 albums were my favorite, because after this album, I kind of lost track of them a bit. But I remember very vividly these first 3 albums. And when this album came out, it was the same time as Paul Gray's death, the Slipknot bassist, the pig face. He passed away, and the lead single for this album was "Say You'll Haunt Me," which just tugged at my emotional strings as soon as I heard it, because I know it was about Paul Gray. And you know, before we go any further, I will say this. One of the things I love about this album that is so different from Slipknot is, in Slipknot, Corey Taylor is well known for being quite the cryptic lyricist. You can't really tell what his songs are about. He's very cryptic in how he writes stuff. It's not very clear. You have to kind of research into what he's saying. But on this album, it's very simple, but in a good way. It's very toned down. It's very emotionally driven, and you don't need to research any of the songs. You can hear by the lyrics what he's saying, whether it be relationships, whether it be passing of friends, brothers to him, whether it be emotional songs about stuff that makes him angry or sad. It's very simplistic, and for some reason, I just love hearing that side of Corey, because too often you hear him in Slipknot, and it takes it takes a fucking 3rd and 4th National Treasure movie to kind of get what he's saying. Like it's intense, but here you can just let go and just enjoy the music, and you don't need it's not at all cryptic. It's just raw emotion, simplistic lyrics, and I think it suits perfectly this album.
Yeah, it's you know, I read that it was dedicated to the bassist Paul Gray, and when I heard that, then every song kind of, because I listened to the first time and I didn't get a lot of parts that he was singing about, and then it just made sense. Made me like the album more too. Like I suppose I felt the heart side of things, and anything to do with passion and genuine, you know, emotion, you know, I gravitate towards. But yeah, it's funny timing, because that was like early in the same year he died, and you know, it just goes to show, like, fair play to him to actually push himself to make this album. You know, like a lot of artists that lost a good friend like that might have just, you know, knocked this album on the head, you know. But you know, fair play to him. He's strong geezer. But yeah, so the singles were Mission Statement, and then the second one was Say You'll Haunt Me, which is, you know, I didn't know 100%, but what you're saying there, it seems like it's about Paul Gray, and it's just a really nice homage to his brother. The thing that really stood out to me with this album as well, though, bro, is I'm always mad to jump into, is being a Roadrunner record album. The production of it is absolutely stellar. Like it's like mind blowing. The cast, if you will, that's on this album. I have to jump straight into that, because before you talk about a song, the first thing that you notice is the level of which it's recorded. Now, there's amazing songs that I enjoy thoroughly that have smaller budget. You know, it all depends on the vibe that was in the studio at the time. But when you're at this sort of level and you come out with an album like this on Roadrunner, and then you've worked with people like now I'm gonna say this guy's name wrong, but I know all of his work. Nick Ralens or something. He's a producer, right? That has worked with absolutely just everybody you can think of. He's worked with Weezer, Korn, Foo Fighters, an Irish band called Ash. I'll give them a shout out. Alexandria, Hailstorm, Deftones, Marilyn Manson, Trivium. The list goes on and on. I could list for ages. And it just goes to show, like, the level of the production of this album. It's really just that you can by who they worked with on this album, you could feel where they were wanting to bring the album, and what kind of like level. It was mixed by Randy Stud, and he worked on that "This Is How You Remind Me" song. You know, that made it like, you know, everywhere in the world. That song by Nickelback was on the radio at any given time for I don't know how many weeks. It was just like constantly. They done like a survey, and every minute of the day, some radio station around the world was playing that song. It was on a constant loop around the world. It was crazy, like. But so, you know, he's worked on big sounding hit tracks. He worked on the Alice in Chains album, 2017 album, or something like that. Then also there was Chris Lord. He worked on some mega albums as well. Bruce Springsteen, Prince, just small acts like that, Rolling Stones, small acts. And it was even mastered by a chap called Ted Jensen, who has worked with Green Day, Eagles, Billy Joel. So like there was no way that this album wasn't gonna sound humongous. Like, it just epic in every proportion, and then when you add on top of that the musicianship, and then Corey Taylor's voice, like, you're on a winner. Like, there's no doubt about it. Like,
well, that's the thing. Another thing to point out is the one, I love, to me, when you have an album like this, it can be very tough to find the right balance, because so many albums, they'll be super heavy and then a random soft song, or an album will be super soft and have a random heavy song, and it just feels out of balance. This album is perfectly I feel perfectly centered. It's heavy but not too heavy. It's soft but not too soft. It has the perfect balance. And the one thing I can't stress enough is the diversity of Corey Taylor's vocals. I mean, sure, in Slipknot, we heard songs like Snuff, Vermilion Part 2. No, Vermilion Part 2. And then on All Hope Is Gone, we heard more melodic choruses from Corey. Wait and Bleed, that was the first album, but we've heard glimpses of him before. But on this album and on the few Stone Sour albums, you can hear just how amazing, like, he has no limits. If he wants to go heavy, we've heard Slipknot. If he wants to go angelic, there's songs on here like Hesitate, or songs like Imperfect, or, Say You'll Haunt Me, how he delivers that emotional gut punch. And literally every time I hear that song, and I've heard it 100 times or more by this point, every time I hear it, like, I almost break into tears. Honestly, like, it's so gut-wrenching. And the way he phrases it, Say You'll Haunt Me, most people will be like, oh, rest in peace, or, like, I hope you don't leave me. Say You'll Haunt Me. It's such a tribute to the griminess of Slipknot, but at the same time, it's an emotional balance. So he mixes the two together, and it's just a perfect symbolism for someone like Paul Gray. And to me, another thing that I discovered through this album, the others as well, but on Stone Sour, the one thing I noticed, which for some reason I don't really notice with Slipknot, I didn't notice until I got older, but how much of an absolute monster Jim Root is. Jim Root is a monster, because the problem is, on Slipknot, speaking for myself, I got too enticed with Mick Thompson and his mask. He has such a badass mask, so I always think of him as the ringleader of guitarists in Slipknot, and he is amazing. Don't get me wrong, but when you take Jim Root out of that context and let him be on his own, he's just this gem of a guitar player, and his work is incredible on this album. His rhythms, his patterns, his shredding solos at times. He knows somehow with the guitar, he knows how to match the emotional tone of the song, which I can't imagine is easy to do. You're a guitar player. I can't imagine that's easy to do. So shout outs to Jim.
Not really. Yeah, 100%. Jim is an absolute legend. Like, I absolutely love his playing style. And, it was sad for the band. He left in 2014, I think. And, they've gotten some really sick guitar players since, but Jim is the absolute man. But speaking about Corey's voice, you know, I mean, this one thing I was dying to talk about the minute you told me to listen to this album. You know, he's one of those skeezers that's like got a serious vocal range. We talk about this all the time. He's a 5.5 vocal range. You know, he's only in popular music, as they say, popular like or popular heavy music. There's only one guy ahead of him, and that's the singer from it escapes me now, but I'll remember it in a minute. But he's he's one of the leading vocalists that have that range, and I think that's all attested to. He's another man that's dead and gone, rest his soul. He only died last year, I think. Ron Anderson, he's a vocal coach. He was like without a doubt, when I list off the singers that he's worked with, you'll just understand. Like he's worked with Matt Heafy from Trivium, and I always thought Corey and Matt had this similar kind of tone, or direction in their vocals, and I was like, there has to be some link there. And they had the same vocal coach, so there you go. He's worked with Axl Rose, incredible singer. Miles Kennedy, incredible singer. Ozzy Osbourne, he can hit some serious notes. Hayley Williams and Liz Hale, Chris Cornell. It's just like all big voices. So I'd imagine that a lot of that can be attested to, especially when you listen to the vocals, even on the first two albums. And you can compare those vocals to Slipknot vocals, but he found on this album, I think he found his Stone Sour voice, which I think is really important because he likes to write. He's like he's a prolific songwriter, so he'll sit down and he'll write a song, and it's not written specifically for, it's whatever comes out, and he'll be like, right, well, that works for Stone Sour, that works for Slipknot, which really I think that's really cool, because he's writing organically. He's not trying to sound like something. He's just doing him, and that's why this album was so diverse. And there's so much different stylistic choices on this album. Like, Corey himself has said that this Stone Sour in general, but this one in particular, is metal, rock, slow, fast, heavy, bitter, beautiful, but most importantly, real. Is what he calls it. It's like it's real music that it's written for the right reasons in the right place. Like, I was gonna go back talking about Jim Root, but I won't, because I won't be able to shut myself up. Like, just an absolute stellar guitar player, and the solos he done on this. There's probably going to be many a time I'm going to say there was a bitching solo on that song, guys. There's plenty of bitching moments. I was really surprised to hear, how well the album done. Like, it sold like 2.1 million albums in the US alone, and I think the first week it went crazy big in the first week anyway. It just kind of blew up for them. I can't find my stats at the minute, but like the thing I find is really interesting. Like, I love going back to like the origins of bands, and the Stone Sour actually Corey formed it before Slipknot, which I thought was really interesting. Now it disbanded. It only went, that was like 92, and then like 97 was disbanded, and then they got reunited in 2000. And obviously Corey had already made waves, so it was great time for the band to come back in. And 20 years, it's hard to believe that Stone Sour, they took their hiatus in 2020. It's hard to believe that they were 20 years gone. Like, that's no mere feat. Like, 2 decades of like his other band, like while he's running Slipknot. It's unbelievable. But the fact that I think it was one of the original bass players came up with the name Stone Sour, one of the founding members. He said he was in a cocktail bar. I don't know whether he worked there or he was just drinking there, and there was a cocktail called Stone Sour. And he's like, that's a good band name. I thought that was really cool.
That's what we should have listened to when we're doing the Sour Challenge. Stone Sour.
I did think of that, but then I was thinking, if we done the Sour Challenge, we could have like some sour fruit or something. Those big yolks I was talking about, they're foreign can't remember the name now. It's Japanese fruit, actually, isn't it? Like, and it's supposed to be the most sour fruit. So maybe someday we'll do that.
Yeah. Yeah. So Corey's amazing on this, and I think I'm trying to go through my brain, but I think I did own the CD of this back in the day, because back in my teenagehood, I collected CDs, and I feel like this would have been one, because I used to have a CD store next to my house, which is now demolished. That is no longer there, but it was once there, and but yeah, I swear I had this album. But it is a fantastic album, and the one thing that I'd always loved, like, it's pretty corny when you think about it, but I always loved the wordplay that, like, on this album. Like, for example, the third track, Digital, how he went, digital, did you tell? I'm like, damn, that's smart. Like, I don't know what it means. Yeah. I don't know why he said that, but it's funny to me. It's just like, oh shit, like, in my 16-year-old brain, I was like, oh shit, like, this is some smart wordplay. I don't know, but it made me laugh, and it's carried on through the years in my head. But to me also, to talk about the fluency of this album, because you have that amazing intro, Audio Secrecy, which goes into this hard rock song mission statement. I think it's the perfect interlude into it. And then to go to the very bottom, the two last tracks, I mean, the song Imperfect, I could, like, that is a heartfelt song. Corey's vocals couldn't be any more angelic on that song. It's the perfect semi-closer. And then you have Threadbare, which is a tad bit heavier, but you can really hear, like, to me, Imperfect is like the calm before the storm for Corey. He's just letting his heart out. But then on Threadbare, you can hear his vocal range just expanding, and on the choruses, and then those almost sci-fi like guitars towards the end. It's this whole big closer, and I just think they couldn't have chosen a better two songs to end the album off. So you have a perfect intro, you got a perfect outro, and then in the middle you just have some amazing Dying, Unfinished, which is like probably the most heaviest track on the album, probably. Unfinished. It's very raw. Has this very raw aesthetic. It's not Slipknot heavy, but it's more the first Stone Sour album heavy. Like, it goes back to those roots, and yeah, and I just love, like I said, I love the combination of of like mainstream rock, kind of like acoustic rock mixed with metal, mixed with ballads. It's such an interesting experiment for Corey. And back then there was memes everywhere, like roasting Corey Taylor, saying, oh, the most classic meme says, Slipknot has 3 albums, Slipknot, Iowa, and Volume 3. After Volume 3, it's Stone Sour, which I think is a funny dig. But I understand that if you're a hardcore Slipknot fan, and if you're a purist, you don't want to listen to Corey be emotional. You don't want to hear soft from Corey. But I love it because it shows diversity. It shows how skilled he is, and it shows a different side to Corey. Like I said, not just in his lyricism, but in how he can produce songs, in the kind of people he works with, in what he wants for himself in his side project. And like you said, he writes songs for Stone Sour and Slipknot. He knows he respects the music enough not to just do whatever. Like, he's careful not to make a Stone Sour song for Slipknot or vice versa. So he does care, and he does respect both bands are different. So I think all that considered, it's just, I don't know, to me, this is just an amazing combination. And I don't know, for some reason, out of all the Stone Sour albums, this is the one I keep going back to for the emotional depth, for the variety, and just to hear Corey just go absolutely fucking bonkers in his vocal range. It's just, for me, it's just literally pretty much the perfect metal album.
Yeah, it's so cool that you mentioned as well, like his clever lyricism. He's just like, when he writes a clever, like, there's, you might listen to a song, go, oh, that's cleverly written. But when Corey writes something, it's cleverly written. I was listening to that Digital song, and I was like, is he saying what I think he's saying? Because it kind of sounds like he's just repeating himself, saying digital, digital. Yeah. And I'm like, no, there's something different. This sounds a little bit. So I listened to it a bit more intently, and then I could hear him. That digital the world. Like, that's absolutely deadly. Like, it's simple in a way, but it's not. It's clever. It's like just really well written stuff. Like, I mean, the song has like a really cool riffage, groovy kind of vibe off it, and it's just one of those songs that you just straight away, like, it was a contender for me. It got pegged at the post, but it was a contender for best song for me. I really liked it. It was like I liked Mission Statement. I thought it was a really good song. It was really nicely blended in from Audio Secrecy. Just perfectly blended in. It had that alt metal kind of vibe off it that, I kind of grew up on listening to that sort of stuff. Jim Root bitching solo on Mission Statement is pretty cool. Just powerful vocals straight away, and then track 3, it just takes it into a different kind of sonic kind of vibe off it. It's just killer. But then you think about Imperfect, like you mentioned. It's just like, there's a couple of attempts for the ballad on this album. I think there's 2 or 3 kind of songs that are reaching for that kind of like big ballad on the album. But I think Imperfect might be the one that kind of really took it on the ballad front. I know the track that you were mentioning that you love, the You Say You'll Haunt Me, that's a lovely kind of ballady one too. But this one, I think, I don't know, it's something about the vocals on that one. Like, it really just stood out for me. And there's all these lovely lead harmonies and stuff on it as well. It's just a pleasant ballad song, and like, you just want to listen to it. But the thing about this album in a whole is, you can listen to it anywhere, in any kind of mood, in any kind of like scenario. It's not like one of those albums where you have to be in a certain mood to listen to, or you're looking to generate a certain mood out of yourself. It's like you said, it has everything. It's just one of those albums, like, and yeah, he did get a lot of stick. I remember even being, a bit kind of surprised, especially when he came out, when he had the long blonde hair, bleached blonde. And there was just one of the songs, I don't think it's on this album, but there was like a Hollywood sign behind them, and it just seemed like he was trying to go a certain direction that felt a little bit odd for him. But when you actually read into it and understood what he was doing, and he was trying to create something different, another side of his, writing, it made sense. And it's like, fair play to him. Like, it's absolutely deadly. But there's always going to be purists. The purists hate on everything all the time. Like, they're brutal. Like, it's, I I'm a purist in a sense, but like, you have to be open to loveliness that somebody might throw out as well. Nylon 6/6 is another song, track number 9, that was one of my contenders for favorite song. It's just got that big, heavy chunkiness, like unfinished as well. Track number 7, they just have that big chunky riffage, and I can't get enough of that, especially Stone Sour riffs. Obviously, that's their kind of ballpark with Slipknot and stuff. But writing, it's the sound of a passionate musician is what I get off most of these songs, especially Nylon 6/6. It's just written by guys that feel what they're doing. You can hear that on a track. I know it sounds odd, but you can hear when somebody's put their whole heart and soul into what they've recorded. There's a really standout bit in that song as well, where there's the bass, big chunky bass stuff in the bridge, and it just jumps out, and I absolutely love it. Another cool thing they do is they pick up the tempos towards the end of the song, which is sometimes it can go a bit wrong, but they pull it off really well. So actually, I can hear Corey singing in my head right now, which is which is weird. Like, it's like he's sending me subliminal messages. Like, what song is it in my head? I think that's the one we were chatting about, that you like say you'll haunt me.
Yeah, but, that's it.
Yeah, just but that's the thing. You see, they're very catchy songs, and they stick in your head. Like I'll have these songs in my head for at least a day or two. You know, I won't be able to. I'll be trying to work on my own songs, and they'll be in my head. And that's the thing. Like a lot of people think that if you write something that's catchy, that automatically makes it lame and you know, selling out. But like that's when you're a really good songwriter, you can write something chunky and heavy and passionate and genuine, and it stick in people's heads. You know what I mean? And that's what Corey's able to do. Like not only that, but he's an absolute diamond of a chap as well. He's like he's a proper poster boy for metal, you know, like good geezers, you know. Obviously he's had his time with narcotics and stuff, but he's open about it and he's worked on that. And it's just he's stellar stuff. You know what I found was interesting was track number 10, Miracles. There's like this nice cool slow burner kind of guitar work on it, and it sounds like something that could be in like a modern day Western kind of song, like a big Hollywood, you know, modern Western, like maybe something that like, I could just imagine it be like, you know, really being like the epic scene in this movie. Like, and I always love songs that do that. There's a sneaky little choir singing in it as well, which I didn't hear anywhere else in this album. Compared to last week's album, Empath, you know, there was choirs every couple of bars. But and I, you know, I kind of missed that this week because I was so I love that. I love a good choir. Like what last week we got in spades, but this week they just threw in one tiny little bit on towards the tail end of Miracles, which was nice. But that's it. They just throw loads of deadly stuff in, like constantly. It's like, you know, they take a lot of inspiration from a lot of prog bands, but they never consider themselves as prog. But they like that in the sense that they like to change it up and, you know, not bore people by rehashing the same thing over and over again. So I'm interested to listen to the new album. But you know, every time I was looking up Corey, a big thing that kept coming up was the rivalry between him and Chad Kroeger from Nickelback. I thought that was comical, like, you know, just slagging each other about their songwriting. Like they were signed to Roadrunner as well, and obviously they just didn't hit off well, didn't like each other. But now it's turned into, what's his name, Machine Gun Kelly was going for Corey Taylor. I was like, oh no, because, you know, he's only just trying to get into rock and metal and that. And like to go after Corey Taylor of all people, like you're that's crazy, man. That's crazy. But anyway, I digress. I'm just waffling now.
Well, let me say this. Corey Taylor, if I was you, I wouldn't be worried that two faggots are coming after me. So yeah, man. Don't worry. You're fine.
No. I don't think he is.
Yeah. Of all people. Don't get me wrong. There are a handful of Nickelback songs I love, but he's no Corey Taylor. And Machine Gun Kelly can go fuck himself. That's just the end of that. Like, fuck him. But yeah. So, you know, like every time I try to think of an album that to me has a similar trajectory, as in, and by that I mean the albums beforehand were different, and then this album kind of broke its own mold. The only comparison I could think of was, and you might agree with me because I know you're a fan of it, but to me, this is similar to when the band Him released Screamworks, Love in Theory. It's like you go from the normal doom goth rock thing, and then to a more pop rock, like mainstream album. And it took me a while, just like that album, it took me a while to adjust. I was like, oh shit, this is a different sound. Do I like it? Do I hate it? I think I warmed up to this album a lot quicker than Him. But yeah, it's the same thing. It's like they used to being heavier. They used to being a certain sound. And then just like with Screamworks, once they switch it up, you're going to get a lot of core fans who are pissed off because they're like, this isn't the sound we used to. This isn't the sound we want. What if they sell out? What if they go mainstream? And all these questions. And I'll be lying if I said I wasn't one of those people back in the day. Because initially, when I first heard "Say You Haunt Me" without context, I didn't know that was about Paul Gray. But without context, I was like, yeah, what is this? But then, obviously, the more I listened to it, I gave the whole album a chance, and I fucking loved it. But it's the same thing. It's like, unfortunately, some bands can't, as you said, they can't give themselves the time of day to give something a try. Like, okay, and look, that isn't to say that every attempt at being different is going to be good. But that's the Russian roulette. That's the sonic Russian roulette you play. It's like, you have to go out and find out. You have to find out, okay, do I like this? And then give it an honest try. And if you don't, you don't. Like, you're not forced to like it. And, to be honest, the only genre that I'm 100% purist on is punk. I don't like any division from punk. Like, it's either heavier or nothing. Like, I can't stand any variations of punk, like softer punk. I fucking hate it. But besides that, I'm willing to give everything else a try. And I think people who skipped this album because they're afraid it's too soft, or they've heard a few singles that are way too soft, ballads, and they're like, nah, fuck that, I'll stick to Slipknot, or I'll stick to the first two albums. I think this is the perfect album for metalheads to branch off and go, look, I'm gonna give something different for a try. Because look, this album, we're stating facts here. This album has, I'll steal your line, bitching guitar riffs. This has amazing vocal performances. This has deep, even though simple, deep lyricism. So it's like, there shouldn't be anything on this album besides the heaviness factor that people won't like. This has everything that a good metal album has. Everything. So it's like, the formula's there. It's just about the sound, whether it's too heavy or too soft. And I just think, yeah, if people, start with this album. If you're a metalhead and you're a massive fan of Slipknot, which we all are, why not just put this on, like, if you're listening to this and you're a traditionalist or a purist, that's fine. I am in certain areas too. Just give this album a try. Yeah, no doubt, it's soft. It's way softer than Slipknot, but I think you'll find, just some amazing qualities that maybe you don't find as much in Slipknot, because Slipknot is all about aggression. It's about heaviness. That's their thing, and we love them for it. When we're angry, when we're aggressive, we listen to Slipknot. It's the perfect stimulus for that emotion. But if you're looking for, like if you're looking just to put headphones on and just feel emotion, you can't really get a better album than this. It's just Corey Taylor at his vocal best, just giving us some heartfelt moments. And yeah, I think overall it's the perfect variety of an album. And I think if people who originally skipped an album like this before, to just go back, give it an honest try. Because obviously, if people if you go into it thinking, oh, this is gonna be shit, well, of course, because you're thinking it's shit. Like, it's not the album, it's your mentality. Like, if you go in there with an honest try and be like, all right, I'll give it a proper try, let's see if I like it, then I think you will enjoy an album like this. And that's a message to all the metalheads out there anyway.
Yeah, it took me, at the second listen, I started to really feel it. And, on the third listen, I really liked it. When you go in to listen to an album with, a certain idea of what it's, you might be even disappointed before you even listen to it. That kind of way. You're like, oh, well, I'm expecting this album to be a bit weaker compared to their others. And, but when you really give the songs a chance, and each, just each listen, you kind of, you understand it more. And I think that's a really good album. The more you listen to an album, if it gets better and better and better, it means that there's a lot of depth in it. And there's it's kind of like there's familiarity involved in listening to songs. If you listen to a song, and it becomes familiar to you, you start to enjoy it more. But if a song, then you spot something different in the song as you're going along, you're like, oh, that's a nice bit of instrumentation there, or I didn't spot that harmony or whatever, you know, and I was getting that with this. I was getting all these extra nice little nuggets as I was listening to it every time. It's, you know, it's just a well put together album. Um, like you know, the guitar work in Pieces, it's got this lovely southern guitar vibe. I was really not expecting that in that song as well. Nice big southern rock chorus, you know, and that's coming from, you know, the track before, which was like, you know, I can't remember this track that was before now, but I remember it being something that swung me anyway. The change in sound, I was like, this is really cool. There's like really nice, smooth guitar solo work in it, and it just has that sing along. I thought I made up a word last night. Sing alongable. Sing alongable. So yeah, it's like it has that kind of, you know, it was an unexpected nice, you know, kind of shift in gears. But the bitter end has the, you know, Slipknot kind of vibe off it on this album. You know, it's just that big menacing determination. It just like overlapping singing guitar, you know, surrender, surrender, surrender. It's just got this like aggression, and you know, and then he goes on to Imperfect, you know. So um it's brave. It's brave to write an album like this and throw yourself out to the wolves, you know, because you know he could easily, if he wanted to, just do Slipknot and not do any other music ever, you know, but he feels a passion and a need to do it for himself. Like, so it's just, he just happens to put it, he just happens to be on a platform on a level where when he puts it out, it gets dissected, you know, like we're doing here. But like, even there's people that dissect things like in a really like unforgiving kind of way, you know, and they don't really understand the concept behind things, and they just shout out shit basically. So those people can piss off. But the thing is that Corey is such a diverse, like you said, the word diverse. He's just pure diverse. This album is diverse. If you're looking for a diverse album, this is the one to go for. The bitter end. I don't know. Did you notice the riff 3/4 way through? It's just this big, mean killer riff. Like, it's like probably the best riff on the album. So if I was to give a trophy to the best riff on the album, we go to the bitter end riff 3/4 way through.
Yeah. So before we do Devil's Advocate, who do you want to shout out or sponsor today?
This week I have a very special one. Now, this episode won't come out till the following week, so when you're listening to this, it's next week, but it's this week. I want to give a shout out to the lovely people at Blackstar who sent me this.
Oh, yes.
This is my new toy that I got sent by Blackstar yesterday. Wasn't even expecting it in the post. I'm now a supported artist with Blackstar, and I cannot believe that those people are even talking to me, because I've been a huge Blackstar fan ever since the company came out. As you can see, I have on my desk my little mini fly Blackstar amp that I bring everywhere when I'm, you know, warming up or whatever. So massive shout out to Blackstar. Thank you so much. To Joel especially. Joel hooked me up there. It's just unreal. Like, but when this episode comes out, I'll have already done the announcement, which is going to be after the episode here today. So this is an exclusive, but you're not going to hear it until the week after. You know, time travel, people. You know, it's like, fucking hell. But yeah, so a massive shout out to Blackstar. And if you're an upcoming guitar player or a seasoned guitar player, look up their stuff, because this particular model is the 100-watt head Silverline, and the Silverline is basically everything you could ever want in a head. There's just everything, and I haven't even fully rehearsed with it yet, so I'm going to be rehearsing tonight with the band with it, so I can give everybody my full in-depth description on it. But shout out to an awesome company from the UK, Blackstar. That's me this week.
That is sick. Like, I'm so excited you're finally able to announce it.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, like it. All right. So for me, I'll do my normal. So serpenttongue94.wordpress.com. That is the link to my WordPress account. Even though I've been doing a lot less lately because I've been so swarmed up with interviews and the podcast stuff. So I'm doing a lot less now, but it doesn't mean that if you don't come to me, I won't review you. I will. So just still, if you need a review done, reach me out and I'll do it. There'll be a contact info and review info. If you just want to read reviews, go to review. If you want to contact me, go straight to my Facebook, and the rest is easy. Next up, we're going to go to Zach Moonshine, our frequent sponsor of the show. I mean, as far as metal goes, he really is the kingpin of all that. So it's like, you know, if you're an underground band, you can't really expect to go to anywhere else besides maybe the local band Smokeout. Shout out to you as well, Bg Goodrich. But those two are really the kingpins of this shit, and you know he does so much for the culture. He does so much with bands. His PR work is legendary. Like I've read over what kind of PR he offers. It's just like fuck, like to be able to get to that level and the amount of reach he gets per month, let alone per year, is just out of this world. You can't expect to go to anyone else. So if you want to contact him at Zach, Z-A-C-H, at metaldevastationradio, one word.com, and see what he can do for you. I also want to shout out John Sorrell. I never actually confirmed how to pronounce his last name. Fuck it. Sorrell. He is a man who runs his own physical magazine issues called the Morgue Riot, which he describes as a combination of metal, horror, and art. Which, I mean, best three things ever, really, if you think about it, especially for a metal issue. So amazing work, and I think there'll be a big surprise coming soon. We'll keep you updated on that. But in the meantime, go check out his issues. They're in physical copy. Purchase them. Go search on Morgue Riot on Facebook. Contact him and see if you can get yours. Because he does his own artwork. It's insane. The covers look amazing. He's super precise. He's super passionate about what he does, and really cool dude. I talk to him every other day about wrestling. He's a massive wrestling fan. So we talk back and forth. Great dude. We both love different companies, so we're kind of rivals in that sense, but still, wrestling's wrestling, and great dude to talk to. Lastly, which I'll keep short, the Gas Digital Network. So pretty much it's a place to go which has tons of shows, all comedy related, but all have their own little perks, their own little topics. Zach Wild has his own show, which I still have yet to watch. There's wrestling shows, there's horror movie shows, there's comedy shows. So there's really everything you can think of. My favorite being the Legion of Stanks podcast, 3 comedians with 3 very different outlooks that just talk shit because they can. So go check that out. If you can't afford the subscription, they are on YouTube and they are on the podcast app. They do 2 episodes a week, 1 Zoom, 1 live. Go check both out. They're always pretty funny, and yeah, a great place to go if you're a dark humor sick fuck like me.
Nice.
That's a lot of things.
That's a lot of things, but a lot of cool people, man. You see, that's when you know a lot of cool people, you got to shout them out. But before we even forget, I don't want to forget Mr. Sean Whitlow, OG, Big Sean, United Music Mafia. We just released our new album, Tales of Ruin, last week, and it's doing really well. I want to thank everybody so much for all the love, and for Big Sean for putting it out there to the people, and thank you.
It is a tremendous album, and I already wrote a review on it. It's on WordPress, actually, if you want to check that out. And I was meant to make this super deluxe video package that failed miserably, so that's only for Ren's eyes. But it's a fantastic album, and truly, it is the definition of a band improving on what they did from their last work. Even though I love SAGAS, which, not surprisingly, was the inspiration for the podcast. But Tales of Ruin is everything I thought it would be and more. To be honest, I'll be honest to the viewers. When I because I try to stay away from the singles as much as I can, just so I can listen to the whole thing entirely. I'm an album guy. But the few seconds I heard of the teasers, I was afraid they were going to go for a non-Viking Motorhead type vibe. Nothing wrong with Motorhead, but I was really afraid that they were going to kind of go more rock, but less folky, less Norse vibe, which thankfully I was wrong. It's got a perfect blend of everything. So take it from the serpent tongue's mouth himself. Fantastic album. I'm assuming everywhere you get music. So go check it out. It's definitely worth the listen.
Thanks, brother. Really appreciate that. So that brings us on to
Devil's Advocate.
Devil's Advocate. The Devil's Advocate. Have me harp on hand today.
I love it. Love it. Oh, also, one last thing. Shout out to Devil Townsend for sharing our thing on their page. Like, that is insane. Our last episode, which is your recent episode today, Empath was shared by Devin's management team himself, and that is the biggest thing ever. So thanks to you guys.
Oh, actually, seeing as we're talking about good news and everything, before we get to Devil's Advocate, I'll sing that song again for you in a minute. But we got to announce our tour with Vader, which I'm sure everybody, by the time this episode comes out, will have heard about it, because we're going to tell everybody all the time, every day, every minute of the day. But we're going on tour, Ren Marbu and the Berserkers, with Hate and Vader and Die Disease and a couple of other really cool bands. But we're going all across Scandinavia. So thank you very much to Creative Music and Massive Music for making that happen, and to our management, Split Screen Management and United Music Mafia for all pulling all our strings and making this happen for us. Dream come true. We're going over to Scandinavia in September. I think we're playing the 6th or the 8th to the 17th or something. The whole list of the shows is up there, so you can come check us out in Norway, Sweden, and Denmark. But if you're in Ireland, you can come and see us on the 27th of August in the Balor Theatre over here in Irlande. So, yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there. Thank you so much to Vader and Hate for sharing, and Die Disease for sharing our content and stuff like that, and the announcement. It's amazing. Devil's Advocate.
You love how organized we are, right, fans? Super.
Sorry.
So,
yeah.
So as usual, I guess I'll start. That's how it goes.
Yeah.
So for me, this was really hard to choose a bad song, because I can say that I love every song's album, intro, fucking everything. So this is really hard, but I had to. So really, this was like the 101 time listening to this album. I didn't even have to study that much for this album. This is just an album that's part of me now. It just goes through me. So the song I ended up choosing, and like I said, it's really petty shit at this point, but the song Nylon 6/6, and only because when I was listening to every other song on the album, they all just gave me too much chills, too much perfectionism. Not that this song isn't perfect, but I guess it's the one song when I thought about it more and more that it gave me 99.999% instead of 100. So that's the song. Sorry guys, I still love the track and I wish I didn't have to choose one, but I do. So best song. Talk about a hard choice. Best songs. But the one, this might be obvious, but for me, it's Say You'll Haunt Me. Because as soon as I heard that about the Paul Gray, it's big. Every time I hear, like I said earlier, sometimes I am left in tears, and every other time I'm almost left in tears. This song is just a heart punch. It's so emotional. I just think back to Slipknot, and sometimes I even think about past ones in my own life, and I link that song to their memories, and it just gives me a heartfelt punch, like I said. So it's just a perfect ballad you could think of. It's the perfect Corey Taylor ballad. It's the kind of ballad you can imagine Zakk Wylde doing, like Label Society. It's a very manly kind of ballad. Like, it's very it's the perfect lyrical description for a ballad. And I don't know, every time I hear that chorus, say you home. It's just like, fuck, it just gets to me. And then like how he says, I will give up, and then he's like I will give you everything, I will give you anything. Say you home. Oh fuck. It's just like so emotional, and yeah, that song will stand out to me forever. So
nice, man, nice. Yeah, it is one of those songs. It does. It's I can imagine a lot of people using that song to help them through specific dark, sad times. There's a couple of songs like out there that do that for me as well, and they're important songs to be written, like, and a lot of people are afraid to, like I said earlier on, to make themselves vulnerable and put them songs out there. So props to them on that one. Yeah, I mean, Nylon 66, a 6x6 or 6x6, whatever. That's it's a cool track. Yeah, but yeah, it probably isn't a standout track in the album for me either. Where is my least favorite? It was a hard one to pick. I knew it would be one of the ballads just because that was an easy route for me to be like, oh no, heavy tunes. I'll pick a soft song. But they were really good tracks as well, really, really well written. Even the song I'm gonna say is my least favorite, Hesitate, is actually really, really well structured, well produced, catchy. Like it's a pop rock song, but it has this really nice sway to it as well. It's really groovy, very hopeful. It's soppy. It's got that crowd lighting candle or lighter, or nowadays it's holding up the phone. Like, they got that kind of. I can imagine it being a big epic live song. That I think that's all it was. It was just a little bit too soppy for me. It's perfectly executed for what it is. So skipping on from that, my favorite track was a hard choice as well. Like I said earlier, there's a couple of songs. Usually a track stands out like almost instantly as my favorite song on the album, but there was a couple of really good ones that I pointed out earlier. Threadbare for me though took it at the post because I wasn't expecting it. It was very sonically interesting. The rest of the album was really nicely put together, but this one just had the it factor for me. There was like it starts off with a nice acoustic, which is coming off the back of an acoustic track, Imperfect, a ballady acoustic. It just morphed in nicely with the acoustic going on top of acoustic, and then I was thinking, geez, are they throwing out another ballad, another acoustic song here? But it actually developed into a really interesting song. This phased out, almost distorted drums and these droning guitars just kind of sit nicely with this acoustic, and then there was all these really cool layers of vocals with different effects, and it was just really cool. But the melody on the chorus is what grabbed it for me. It just shows how lyrically Corey can sing, and just come up with these really creative vocal lines. And there was one really interesting bit then where they put like a delay on his vocal, and it just drags and draws out for like a couple of bars, and then this guitar just fades in, and then this backwards lead guitar comes in, and then boom, the song's just lights up. It's like there's this effect of like getting sucked back in. It's like a sort of sound like kind of like almost like a backwards sort of, it just pulls the song back in, and all of a sudden there's just this magical kind of vibe off the song with these deadly chunky hammer-on, chunky riffs. It's just a brilliant track. It really shined out, especially the production really shined out. The mixing, the master, everything on this track just blew out for me. But there keeps lately all the albums that we do, there seems to be like a special edition, and it keeps throwing these curveballs of like these really cool tracks. Like Devon's was the same last week. One of my favorite songs in the album was actually a bonus track, and this was the same. There's a bonus track called Hate No Hate No Gone or something. It was really cool, badass tune. There was another tune called Anna, another ballady kind of one. There was a nice Home Again was this big soaring rocker. And you know, there's just so much to choose from in this album. I think there was 14 tracks and then 3 bonus tracks. It's like it's a double album essentially, like. But yeah, so that's what done it for me, was the magic in Threadbare. So happy days and congratulations, well done. 12 years later, well done, Corey Taylor.
So do you have an album choice ready?
I do. I would like to do, you know what, as I said about the tour that we're getting to go on, with the mighty Vader and Hate from the lovely Polish community of Poland and the lovely Polish people. The company we work with, the Ulster Meat Co., our good friends are Polish lads, and you can't get better people. They're just, you know, the Irish are nice, but the Polish are even nicer. So this week I decided to pick a friend of Peter from Vader, the band Behemoth, another big Polish band. Their album, I Loved You at Your Darkest. I Loved You at Your Darkest. Incredible album. I can't wait to talk about Behemoth. They're just so interesting. And that's my album.
I'm so happy we talk about that band, because their album, where is it? Their album, I think they're the right band. Because yeah, they released an album. Must be someone else. But no, good band nonetheless. Yeah, good band, and I can't wait to dive more into their discography.
Sick. Yeah, no, man, it's gonna be a good one. It's gonna be good chats. Really interesting characters as well as people as well. So that was cool stuff to talk about, and they're buddies with Vader, who I'm gonna be talking about for the next, you know, year or 2 or 3 or 4. Probably never shut up talking about Vader now. Like,
well, hey, this is how you remind me.
Well played, sir. Well played.
Yeah. So that was the episode. Hope you guys enjoyed it. So if you guys want to, if anyone out there is curious to listen to us from day one, it's all on YouTube. We'll keep uploading to YouTube as well as the streaming services, just so you guys don't miss out in case you don't have streaming services. If you do, it's on all the big ones: Apple, Spotify, you name it, it's on it. So hope you enjoy this episode, which will be next week anyway. But in the meantime, Empath should be out. So go watch that. It's a great album to talk about, and this is another great album. So until next time, and as we always see here at SAGAS, same time, same place, or something.
Or something. See you later, everybody.